stop doing this and start doing this in order to grow your glutes? Or isn't it that simple? Hey guys, it's Sophie from GAINSBYBRAINS and welcome to today's Training Tip Tuesday. With Training Tip Tuesday, I'll share a tip regarding training every single week on Tuesday, and this week it will be all about the glutes. So I will first talk a bit about the 3 primary mechanisms for muscle growth, since growing our muscles or growing our glutes is the topic of this video. Then I will talk a bit about the difference between the squat and the hip thrust, and then I will talk about how the 3 primary mechanisms for muscle growth actually relate to the squat and the hip thrust, so that we can draw some conclusions about which exercise is most effective for building your glutes. First up are the 3 primary mechanisms to muscle growth according to Brad Schoenfeld, and I really hope that I pronounce his name correctly. With those 3 primary mechanisms, he means the 3 factors that you want to pay attention to or that you want to maximize in order to maximize muscle growth. Now, you may have heard me talk about it before on my Instagram, and those 3 primary mechanisms to muscle growth are mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage. In this case, we want to find and we want to perform exercises in such a way that they create the highest level of mechanical tension, the most metabolic stress, and the most damage to our glutes in order to maximize glute gains, in order to grow our glutes. Mechanical tension is the load that you put on your muscles when you exercise, and in order to maximize it, you want to make sure that you perform the exercise through the full range of motion for a certain amount of time. Remember, time under tension, with a substantial amount of weight. This does not mean that the heavier you lift, the more mechanical tension you create. No, because that would mean that you should exercise at your 1 rep max at all times, and that isn't the case. Why? Because adding more weight can shift away the tension from your targeted muscles to other muscles, or performing the exercise with a lighter weight might allow you to perform more reps with the same amount of tension, or maybe with a higher tension, which will increase your time under tension and thus your mechanical tension. Metabolic stress, also referred to as the pump, and this is maximized whenever you perform moderate to high reps with low rest in between your sets. This way the blood gets pumped into your muscles and the contractions actually prevent the blood from getting out, which will cause cell swelling and metabolic stress. Muscle damage is what happens whenever you are working out, as this creates micro tears into your muscles. Your body responds to this by making new muscle tissues, and this helps your muscles with recovery and with coming back stronger to respond to future stimuli. Surplus, surplus, I don't know. That was the recap of the 3 primary mechanisms to muscle growth, and as you may know from personal experience, those 3 factors are indeed interrelated. Now, what we are looking for in this video is finding the best exercise, the exercise that gives us the best combination of those 3 mechanisms in order to maximize hypertrophy, to maximize muscle growth, or to maximize our glute gains. Next up, I wanted to talk about the differences between the squats and the hip thrust, and I wanted to start with the squats. And the reason why I decided to go for the squat is because I've been seeing a lot of challenges going around the last couple of years on social media with how many squats you had to do in one day for like a month, for example, and then you would get these amazing results in your glutes. Squats are a great compound exercise for your lower body. In general, it targets your core, your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings. It helps with smaller stabilizing muscles, and it builds both form and function. There are a lot of variations of the squat. You have the front squat, low bar squat, high bar squat, parallel squat, below parallel squat, sissy squat, pistol squat. I wanted to go with the regular back squat in this video. The hip thrust is where you have your back elevated on a bench, for example, your feet on the ground, and you have a barbell on your hips, and then you perform essentially a weighted hip bridge. It recruits approximately the same muscles as the squat, your lower back, your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads, smaller stabilizing muscles, etc. But the degree to which these muscles are recruited, that differs a bit. So let's continue with how this all relates to growing your glutes, and for that we will be looking at a study done by Brad Contreras, aka the glute guy, and others who investigated the degree to which the gluteus maximus, the biceps femoris, and the vastus lateralis are worked when doing a squat or a hip thrust. They did an EMG test, and an EMG test measures muscle activity. EMG studies are not meant to say that this exercise builds more muscle than this exercise. It is all about showing muscle activation or muscle involvement. Now, there are two studies who link muscle activation to muscle hypertrophy, as it influences both mechanical tension and metabolic stress. As I mentioned earlier, those are two of the three primary mechanisms to muscle growth. In their study, they investigated 13 trained women who performed a 10 rep max in both the back squat and the barbell hip thrust. For the squat, when you have the bar on your shoulders, your glutes are relaxed, and at the bottom of the squat the contraction is actually lowest. Now, maximal contraction takes place whenever you are driving upwards from the squat in the middle of the rep, and then it slowly gets lower as you get back to the top again. For the hip thrust, at the start of the movement, when the barbell is closest to the floor, your glutes are relaxed, and when you start to extend your hips and really squeeze your glutes, that is when you have maximal contraction or maximal activation. Unlike the squat, where your glutes are actually relaxed at the top instead of at the bottom of the movement, gravity constantly places a tension on your glutes with the hip thrust. Result of their study is that the barbell hip thrust activates the gluteus maximus and the biceps femoris to a greater degree compared to the back squat when using the 10 rep max loads. So, conclusion for this week's Training Tip Tuesday, what you need to stop doing and what you need to start doing in order to maximize glute gains, is that if you are looking to bring up your 1 rep max in squats, then you need to focus on back squats. And if you are looking for maximizing glute gains, as you probably are since you clicked on this video, then you should focus more on the hip thrust. However, both are really great exercises at bringing up your lower body in general. So if you have the time, please make an effort to include both into your training routine, because you truly get the best result by incorporating both of them. Also, because the EMG activity does not necessarily mean that one exercise leads to building more muscle than the other exercise. It shows muscle activation, and although muscle activation is linked to muscle hypertrophy in some studies, it isn't linked in all. So best bet is to go with both. That was this week's Training Tip Tuesday. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, because I would also love for you to join the community. If you have any recommendations what kind of topics I could cover in the Training Tip Tuesday, let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to know. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.